Hi everybody, I'm David Dorian Ross, founder of the Virtual Pipe Club, and this is the Virtual Pipe Club on YouTube. Do you know the difference between creamy and oily? Well, frankly, I'm not sure that I understand the difference either, but that's one of the things that we're going to talk about in this video today, where I try one different kind of tobacco in 5 different kinds of pipes. You know, I often think of myself as a kind of an accidental YouTuber when it comes to pipe smoking, because on this channel I do pipe tobacco reviews, videos on tips and tricks on getting more pipe smoking pleasure, plus of course the live streams and the recordings of the live streams of our virtual pipe club meetings, all without actually being any kind of an expert on pipes and pipe smoking, except that I think that this is a fascinating hobby that I really enjoy, and I'm getting a lot of pleasure out of making videos about it as well. And so if you're curious about the hobby of pipe smoking, if something that you like as well, then I invite you to hit the subscribe button and of course click the little bell icon, because that's what's going to notify you every time I do a new video on this channel. Creamy versus oily. Creamy and oily are both mouth feels, a sort of coating of the tongue and a texture much rather than a taste. Creamy is that coating that comes into your mouth and touches all parts of your tongue and your palate and everything, but feels really light and slightly, maybe a little bit sweet, not obtrusive, something that you're aware of being there but just sort of wafts in and out without a real heavy presence. In contrast, oily is a same kind of mouthfeel. The vapor, the smoke comes into your mouth, touches your tongue and the top part of your palate and everything, but it lays fairly heavily on your tongue. Sometimes it makes me feel like it's a little bit thicker when I'm breathing. It's again not necessarily a taste, although it might carry a taste on top of it between oily and creamy. And stays with you a little bit longer. That's what I mean by oily and creamy. Now bear that in mind as I go through the review of these different pipes. So what brought all this on was thinking about how different pipe smokers have talked about their favorite pipes. Oh, I only smoke out of cob. In some of the pipe club meetings that we've had recently, a couple of our members have extolled the virtues of smoking out of clay. And by the way, when do you get to use the word extolled in regular conversation? I'm thinking to myself that they're all right, but for different reasons. And I thought, what an interesting experiment to start with one tobacco and try it in all the different pipes that I have, different kinds of pipes that I have, to see if there's an actual difference. This is some bare bones notes about what I noticed in smoking that tobacco in all these different kinds of pipes. So the first pipe that I smoked was my cob. Again, the cob probably, is supposed to give you the most unadulterated and straightforward experience of a tobacco. No ghosting, no extra flavors. Now this is a Missouri meerschaum, which means it's made to carry a filter, and so this is the filter that I used. This is a Dr. Grabo charcoal filter. So I slipped that puppy right in there, right into the cob, and that was my first experience. In the cob with the filter, the smoke was slightly oily, right? Not really thick on my tongue, but in this contrast between oily and creamy, it was more oily, but not deeply, not heavy. There was the strength of the tobacco, but surprisingly mild. I would call the HH rustic to be medium to strong, especially depending on your sensitivity to nicotine. But in the cob with the filter, it came through fairly mild to mild. Halfway through the bowl, things started to change a little bit. The mouthfeel became creamier, so that light, oily sensation sort of changed a little bit. In other words, it wasn't quite so heavy on the tongue, and it carried a little bit of sweetness along with it. Also, getting to the middle of the bowl, it began to be more complex. More flavors began to come through the smoke and the vapor. Particularly, I began to feel sort of the breadiness like sourdough bread. Sourdough bread that was slightly sour in the initial drawing in of the vapor, and then slightly sweet in the aftertaste, right? As the smoke subsided, and just like the tail end of the taste was a tiny bit sweet. And of course, as I went through the middle part to the last third of the bowl, the nicotine came through much, much stronger. So light start, easy start, building into something with a lot more flavor, getting creamier as I go through the bowl, and as I got down to the middle to the halfway to the halfway to the bottom third of the bowl. I'm gonna have to edit this a lot. The nicotine strength got a lot stronger. The second pipe I smoked was the cob again. Cob number 2, cob take 2. Anyway, as I was smoking the cob the first time around, I had a thought in my mind that I wondered if the filter itself made a difference in what I was experiencing in the smoke. So I said I'm going to try it again and take the filter out. Now, if the cob with the filter in it allows you to sort of sip in the smoke and vapor, taking the filter out in a Missouri meerschaum is like a shotgun. It just like a fire hose of smoke coming into your mouth. Big, big draw. The first thing I noticed is much creamier as opposed to being oilier, and also an immediate sense of the strength of the nicotine. So that didn't wait at all. The aftertaste of this tobacco was much stronger and longer lasting. So in actuality, the way that you smoke the cob can give you a different taste experience with the same tobacco. You know, depending on whether you want a big strong kick in the pants with your nicotine and a really strong flavor, go without the filter. On the other hand, if you feel mellow, you just want a little bit, use the filter. The third pipe that I used for our experiment was a BRIAR, and to really get a good BRIAR feel, I picked a classic. This is a 7LE320, the classic author shape that everybody knows and loves. And here's what I found with it. This is sort of, I think, representative of the vast majority of my collection, and probably most other pipe smokers as well, right? This kind of BRIAR. Well done, professionally made, good quality. So the first thing is it struck this tone more midway between creamy and oily, but definitely more on the oily side. It has, or it allowed sort of a medium strength of the nicotine that never really built terribly, terribly strong, although certainly, like with all the pipes, as I got down into the halfway mark and in the lower third of the bowl, it got stronger. And a lot of times the way that Rustica behaves in smoking it is that it sort of sneaks up on you. It's not like you're like aware of the nicotine really big and bold, and then all of a sudden you go, whoa, a little fuzzy, perhaps a little bit, but in a very sort of interestingly nice way, if you don't mind being fuzzy. And also, and I don't know whether this was my imagination or not, but I felt like there was sort of a woody quality of the tobacco smoke, especially in the tail, like you had been sort of chewing on a twig. And all that I got out of the BRIAR. Although I have to say, I still love to feel this chunky bad boy in my hand. You know, that's what you get out of that. But the taste, very different. The fourth pipe I used was my meerschaum. And this is one of my favorite meerschaums. I have about, 8 or 9 of them. This is carved in the shape of a dog, and the dog looks just like my dog, and so I love this pipe, and I find excuses to smoke it a lot. And again, the meerschaum was supposedly without any influence on the flavor of the tobacco, no ghosting, you know, no remnants of earlier tobaccos that you might have smoked in the pipe. So I thought it would be, you know, another very interesting experience of this. So first things first is that without delay, the nicotine strength just plowed into my brain. There was no need for me to wait till the middle or the bottom third of the bowl. It was right away. Flavor, on the other hand, did sort of wait a little bit. It came on a little bit, you know, down into the bowl. And here the flavors, you know, became much more interestingly complex than in some of the other pipes that I had. Particularly that sort of bready quality, but this time not like sourdough, like Wonder Bread. So sweet, not sour. And that left a very interesting aftertaste in my mouth after smoking the meerschaum. So it wasn't really nuanced and complex in the beginning of the bowl, very strong in the beginning of the bowl, building strength and getting just, you know, into overtaking me, I guess I'm trying to say here, by the time I got to the halfway point and then the bottom of the bowl. Overall, I really liked this. I had probably so far amongst the 2 versions of the Cobb and the BRIAR, I'd say this one I had the best time with up to that point. All right, where are we? Let's see, one pipe, 2 pipe, 3 pipe, 4. Okay, pipe number 5, my clay church warden. This pipe just blew my mind. I hadn't really smoked a lot of clay pipes before, and I recently got a bunch of them through an auction, and I decided I would use this as my experiment pipe, and it was such a different smoking experience than all the other pipes that preceded it. Again, like some of the other pipes that preceded it, it got really interesting by the time I got to the middle of the bowl. It started out kind of slow and everything, but by the time I got to halfway point, it was at that time the biggest nicotine rush. Here the strength of the tobacco really stepped forward and really showed itself to be legitimately in this category of strong to more than strong. Didn't wait for anything at all. It was creamier in this bowl, much creamier than it was oily, but also much more meaty than bready. So in the clay pipe, I had this, and again, this might just be my imagination, but I had this feeling like I was getting like the true rustica at this point in time. It's like this one was like really the clean taste. It also burned extraordinarily well. It burned down to a white ash, nothing left, no dottle. It was burned all the way. And then the tail end, that sort of meaty quality stayed with me, and it made my mouth more moist than dry. Like some tobaccos have sort of that tannic or astringent kind of quality, and that will leave your mouth drier than moister. And for some reason, this one, maybe a little bit of the sweetness in the creamy portion of the smoke, maybe it's the meat part there, maybe I was hungry, I don't know. But I did notice that my mouth was not dry, so it was moist at the end of the clay. Now, here's where I was going to stop. Originally, I had just picked out these pipes, the Cobb, the MEER, the BRIAR, and the clay. But then I had another idea. So recently, on one of the posts on our Virtual Pipe Club group page, one of our members posted a picture of one of his pipes and was talking about how much he enjoyed it. And the pipe that he was talking about was a MORTA. Now, I only have 3 MORTAs in my entire collection, and they sit mostly unused. This one's never been smoked ever. And these other 2 have only been smoked a very few times. And so I thought to myself, I didn't even consider trying the MORTA in this experiment. I guess I sort of was predisposed to thinking that it would be just like the BRIAR. But in the interests of science, I thought I needed to include the MORTA in the experiment. And so I filled this up with the HH Rustica and gave it a shot. And I am so glad I did. In the first place, I am now a firmly confirmed MORTA lover. I'm going to add to my collection and make a promise to smoke more tobaccos in my MORTA. It was even beyond the clay as far as an experience of really dynamic and raw and very complex tobacco flavors, more so than with the cob or with the MEER, and even a little bit more than the clay. And also, you know, I like the thing about the clay, just to be going back a moment, every time I pick up a clay, I'm terrified I'm going to break it. Like, it just feels so fragile, especially the church warden. It's like, you know, I'm not quite fully into enjoying the pipe smoking experience with a clay because I think it's just I'm going to bite down too hard, or I'm going to set it down too hard, and it's like, so, you know, I can't just relax as much as I want to. With the MORTA, this puppy is, you know, made from stone. The bog oak is so, you know, durable that I don't worry about breaking it at all. I can just relax into my smoke, and it's fantastic. So this again struck this middle tone between oily and creamy, which I think is perhaps where the Rustica really lies, in between oily and creamy. Big nicotine hit here, just like in the clay. Didn't wait around for permission, just came right in. And for the first time in smoking any of the other pipes, that in the middle of the bowl I got some berries. Berries, like blueberries. Just a little tiny bit, like almost like somebody was making blueberry muffins in another room, and you can smell the berries, you know, cooking, baking on the top of those muffins, you know, just something, maybe a memory of a berry. You ate a muffin and then you walked away, and halfway through the day you can still taste a little bit of that, you know, muffin and those berries in the back of your mouth. Like that kind of berry quality, subtle hints, suggestions, echoes. Ooh, that's a word. The echo of a berry. That's what I got out of the MORTA. Fantastic. I love the MORTA. I love the gentleman on my Virtual Pipe Club group page who started talking about MORTAs to, you know, inspire me to use the MORTA. And so that's my list. Let's go through them one more time. I got the cob 2 times with and without a filter. I've got the BRIAR here, the Savinelli 320. Beefy boy right there. Here's my MEER with the face of my dog. Just always going to be nostalgic about that. Then the clay, and the clay was really more than I had anticipated, and a hugely, like up to this point, this was going to be my favorite pipe to smoke in, to really get a sense of tobacco taste and texture. But I think topping it all off was my MORTA pipe experience. So, in conclusion, I would say that it is without question that you'll get a different pipe smoking experience with the same tobacco in different pipes, which I think is probably so obvious that all of you who are watching this video are going to go, come on, DDR, all this way to take us to something we already knew? Well, there you have it. I thought it was just a pipe smoking experiment that would sound like fun. Anyway, that's what I've got for today's video. A long one, but I hope you enjoyed it. And my question, as always, is, how'd I do? If you think that I did well with this video, please let me know. If you think I did terrible with this video, please let me know. Your comments and your feedback only serve to make me better at the next one that I do. And now, a shameless plug for the Virtual Pipe Club. The Virtual Pipe Club is just an informal group of men and women from all over the world. We keep getting more international every week, who meet every week for conviviality, a little conversation, and smoking pipes together. We talk about pipes and pipe tobacco and our collections and the different kinds of tobaccos that we are trying out. Usually we have a guest speaker who comes in, and we've had artisan pipe carvers, we've had master blenders, we've had people who run the industry and the business of pipes and pipe tobacco across the world. Anyway, that's the Virtual Pipe Club. It's free. You don't need to fill out any forms or anything silly like that. We live stream directly to YouTube on the weekends if you can't make it in, but we'd love to have you come on in. I put a link right down there in the description to our Facebook page where you can come and sort of get on the list to be notified when something new happens. But I hope that you come and join us. All right, that's my stuff for this week. Now, the only question is, do I put the pipes away or do I light up a bowl?